Is a hot dog a sandwich? It's debatable, but what's not debatable is that these are some delicious dogs with high-quality ingredients from companies with ethical practices. To determine the hot dogs with the best high-quality ingredients, we looked for a lack of additives, preservatives, artificial colors, and flavors. It's all just unnecessary, and while additives might extend shelf life a bit, how long do hot dogs really sit around before they're cooked? Another big consideration was the quality of the meat. Are the animals raised humanely? Do companies make it a point to responsibly source their meat, care for the animals, and feed them an ethical diet? That might translate to a somewhat pricier hot dog, but when it comes to your health, it's worth it in the end. Not only are Teton Ranch hot dogs free of any weird ingredients, they're also plenty tasty. The biggest beef we have about them is that they're a little on the small side, and they can be pricey, but they're worth it for the most part. This company boasts products that are made with grass-fed cattle from farmers and ranchers that have been awarded certified humane designations. Animals are raised in pastures instead of feedlots and without antibiotics or hormones. Teton Ranch also focuses on sustainability, which goes a long way in guaranteeing that these hot dogs are going to be around and remain high quality for a long time. As for the actual ingredients, they're pretty straightforward. In addition to the beef, there are flavorings that include things like paprika, garlic, celery powder, cherry powder, and onion. Add in some salt and vinegar, and that's literally it. It's the same ingredients list for both their cocktail franks and bun-length dogs, so whichever way you go, you're getting a quality product.
We're here to lead you to greener pastures.
Niman Ranch's line of hot dogs includes grass-fed Angus beef franks and jumbo beef fearless franks. The listed ingredients are pretty straightforward, with beef, spices, and non-fat dry milk. There's also dextrose and sodium phosphate, but both of those are widely used ingredients that help with stability, shelf life, and sweetening. Niman Ranch's transparency is also admirable, as they post their full protocols for sourcing beef, pork, and lamb on their website. In addition to giving priority to family-owned farms, they also have extensive protocols in place for quality feed, access to pastures and shelters, and extensive guidelines for rating animals used in breeding programs. There are no antibiotics, no hormones, and all source farms are certified humane.
You looking for quality meat?
I think I found it.
Applegate advertises a mission of changing the meat we eat, and that means a few things. First and foremost, it's about overhauling the way that antibiotics are used in livestock, which has for a long time threatened to lead to major problems like antibiotic resistance. Applegate also promises clean products free of artificial or genetically modified ingredients. As for animal welfare, the company was founded by a vegetarian who wanted to make a meat product without the cruelty that the industry is all too widely known for. That's certainly the case with their hot dogs, which include ingredients like salt, vinegar, onion, celery, and a slew of spices like cayenne, ginger, and coriander. Applegate also has strict regulations about how long young animals are kept with their mothers, while also making sure that they're provided with environmental enrichment. Furthermore, animals treated for illness aren't used in any of their products. Fork in the Road's Honest Dogs have a very straightforward ingredient list that specifies pasture-raised beef, with just a handful of other items including vinegar, salt, garlic, onion, mustard, and spices. You know exactly what you're getting when you put a package of these on the grill. Like many of the other companies on this list, Fork in the Road stresses that humane, compassionate care of its animals is a high priority. Their dedication to sourcing products from family farms is also something we can wholeheartedly get behind, and that care is absolutely reflected in the taste. Even though these dogs might be a little higher in price, it's worth it for quality ingredients. As one reviewer on Amazon declared, "I will never have to search for another hot dog brand again because I have found my holy grail beef franks."
To get better than this?
Boar's has a reputation for quality meats, so it's not too surprising that they make tasty hot dogs as well. These uncured beef frankfurters can be purchased with or without natural casing. Either way, they're free of things like added sugar, MSG, nitrates, and nitrites. The ingredient list is very short, with only beef, water, celery powder, paprika, salt, and natural flavors. That's it. While many of the companies putting out high-quality dogs are relatively new to the market, Boar's Head has been around for a while, and more than a century old, the company has always stressed high-quality ingredients. First and foremost in that commitment is animal welfare and the so-called 5 freedoms, which are the widely accepted guidelines for raising livestock responsibly. Boar's Head operates on the premise that quality products come from quality ingredients, and when animals are raised humanely, that's reflected in the end product. Organic Prairie's organic uncured beef hot dogs have enjoyed all kinds of high marks. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the best, these tasty dogs are rated 3.5 on the Environmental Working Group scorecard. Major points are given for responsible practices, including forbidding the use of synthetic chemicals, antibiotics, and hormones. And there's nothing on the ingredient list to worry about. There's just organic grass-fed beef, sea salt, spices, onion, garlic, and celery. Organic Prairie also promises that when it comes to the timeline of production to plate, their hot dogs were frozen immediately after production with just 3 weeks' time until the sell-by date. That's a big deal for anyone who's trying to keep shopping trips to a minimum and food stocked in the freezer for a rainy day. The company also notes that the diet their cattle are fed on translates to happier animals and a more nutritious end product. It all adds up to some franks that are absolutely good enough to justify a weekly hot dog night.
Yeah, that's one idea.
Heritage Foods pork dogs aren't exactly cheap. Thus, they're not the sort of thing that you're likely to feed your neighbors at a cookout, unless you really need to impress them. But they're worth the splurge for a reason that's right in the name. Not only is the ingredient list short and to the point, but these dogs are also made from heritage breed animals. Heritage breeds are defined as those that predate industrialization, and they typically haven't been selectively bred over generations in the way that many factory farm animals have been. They're also usually raised on smaller farms on a smaller scale. Some of the pig breeds are officially threatened, and reviving them on these small-scale farms is a way to keep their population numbers up. It's a win-win all around. Small-scale farmers are supported, genetic and breed diversity is preserved, animals are generally well cared for, and the end product is a higher quality hot dog that tastes better. If you love Oktoberfest, then you'll be happy to hear about Schaller Weber, a company with a history that goes back to Stuttgart, Germany. Ferdinand Schaller ended up making his way across the Atlantic and settling in New York City, where he partnered with Tony Weber. The company kept its German traditions even as it expanded nationwide, and we're grateful for that, because it means that you don't need to live in the Big Apple to order up a few pounds of these German-style dogs. These straightforward franks are made with both pork and beef, with an eye toward quality. Animals are humanely raised on vegetarian diets, with none of those troubling antibiotics and hormones. They also have hot links for anyone who likes to make it spicy, and when ordering from their website, there's no reason not to add some German mustard to your cart. It would simply be irresponsible not to include a chicken-based option on this list, and for that reason, let's now spotlight Bell & Evans. Their chicken franks are made with just 5 ingredients: broth, salt, sugar, a spice mix, and, of course, chicken, specifically breasts, legs, and skin. And that's super important because you don't want to have to deal with those weird, crunchy, rubbery bits in the middle. There are a few other interesting things going on over at Bell & Evans. The company says that it's committed to humanely raising chickens without unnecessary antibiotics, and that their flocks have been so historically healthy that antibiotics haven't been used at all in more than a decade. Many chicken processors use chlorinated water, but in 2005, Bell & Evans built an air-chilled facility. Their chickens are processed using air cooling chambers, which means that you're getting more tender meat with no added water.
It's about producing the best chicken that we possibly can and doing all the right stuff.
When was the last time you had some franks and beans? Maybe it's been an entire eon, and that's where Feltman's comes in. These Coney Island dogs are the perfect option to add to an old-timey favorite. Not only are they old-timey themselves, they're also much better than most of the hot dogs that have typically been added to baked beans. The story of these franks begins on Coney Island in 1867, when Charles Feltman's dogs were so popular that he expanded from a single cart to a massive sprawling restaurant that could serve 10,000 people. It's a must-see location if anyone ever invents a time machine, but for now, reaching for a pack of Feltman's dogs in the present day is a pretty great alternative. These 100% beef dogs have nothing questionable added, with an ingredient list that includes all the usual suspects: beef, salt, spices, sugar, garlic, celery, vinegar, and yeast, plus no unnecessary additives. Add in the fact that you can order them online, and what's not to love?
I love it, I love it, I love it!
What's better than a hot dog made with only high-quality ingredients? How about a hot dog made with only high-quality ingredients that's longer than the bun? Brooklyn Hot Dog Company has that niche covered with their New York-inspired dogs that you can order online. These dogs are made with the usual list of ingredients and nothing unnecessary, but there is something that's a little different as they use white pepper for a milder, less spicy kick, as well as a dash of citrus extract. That makes it the perfect choice for those nights when you're craving something familiar with a little bit of variety for good measure. It's a gentle bit of seasoning that doesn't overpower the typical beefy, smoky flavor that you want out of any dog. And yes, Brooklyn Hot Dog Company makes sure to focus on humanely raised cattle with no added nitrates, antibiotics, or other questionable ingredients. In a nutshell, the idea was to create a pure, meaty-tasting dog, and that's exactly what happened. Every individual has their own reasons for making their food choices, which brings us to vegetarian or vegan diets. There are plenty of ways to go meat-free these days, but plant-based meat substitutes can be a little tricky. These products can be filled with all kinds of saturated fats, fillers, and additives that make them not exactly healthy. So where does that leave us when looking for a meat-free hot dog alternative? Thankfully, there's Lightlife, which offers soy-based hot dogs that aren't terrible, although they do have many more ingredients and additives than a lot of meat-based dogs. The ingredients includes things like xanthan gum and carrageenan, but the good news is that they're perfectly ordinary ingredients that are used in all kinds of foods. The bulk of the other ingredients are pretty straightforward. As for the taste, plenty of online reviews are quite generous. Many laud the texture and bite of the dogs, two qualities that are often disappointing in plant-based meats. Other reviewers have noted that once they load up the condiments, they taste like the real deal. Some vegetarians even mentioned having trouble eating them because they tasted so much like an actual meat-based dog.